I would like to thank my fellow Athenians for their bold and impassioned presentations. As they have said, there are two primary issues that have been put before the Assembly today. Both are of great import, but I fear that we have not considered the repercussions of the decisions that we are being called to make. We must look again at the composition of our electorate and reiterate the merits of the proposed reconciliation agreement. I will begin with the reconciliation agreement. We can all agree, I believe, that this proposition is based around the principles of justice. And so we must consider what the essence of justice is. I and my companions have proven, amongst those of both similar and dissimilar educational status, that justice consists of minding your own business and not interfering with other people's. Furthermore, that justice also consists of keeping what is properly one's own and doing one's own job. Given what we have found to be the definition of justice, it is implied that interfering with another citizen's job, or by attempting to do a job outside of one's own purview, is inherently unjust. It also follows that a just act deserves no reprisal, for no wrong has been committed. It would, in fact, be a most unjust act to punish another man for acting in a just way. The 30 tyrants are no longer within Athens. They have been repelled by our fearless general. Given what we know to be just and unjust, let us proceed to address the issue of reconciliation. Those who worked for and served under the 30 titans were performing a designated task. In essence, they were simply doing their jobs. We have already shown that the doing of one's job is just. Should we punish those who are acting justly? If we have Athenians wish to remain a just society, the answer must be a resounding no. There is no justice in punishing a just man, and no value in continuing a trend of violence that has already destroyed much of our beloved city and many of our city's loyal citizens. I would implore you to consider what I have said and allow the passage of the proposed reconciliation agreement. If we do not, Athens will become an unjust state, and we will have unleashed the worst of evils upon our fair city. A city based on injustice is doomed to failure. Injustice will lead us once more down the path of tyranny. Let us move past our dark history and begin a new and just society where a man is not punished for performing the task which he was born to carry out. That said, I will now move on to the subject of the electorate. To allow anyone, just anyone, into the electorate would be a tragedy. Indeed, the idea of democracy itself is tragic. Democracy is, at its core, mob rule, an anarchic form of society with plenty of variety, which treats all men as equal, whether they are equal or not. I propose instead that we limit the electorate to those who have the knowledge and aptitude to rule. We cannot expect a farmer to understand the affairs of state for the simple reason that his time is consumed by his work in the field, just as we could not expect the educated member of the social elite to carry out the duties of the farmer, as all of his time is devoted to statesmanship. We have already discussed the issue of justice, but I believe it warrants a quick recap. Both men, the farmer and the statesman, would be committing an unjust act by attempting to do another's job. If we wish to live in a truly just society, we must have specialization. I would like to draw the Assembly's attention to the recent war and defeat of Athens by Sparta and her allies. While the Spartan society is flawed, it does consist, at least partially, in specialization. The Spartans have soldiers who are only soldiers. They do not call on citizens like farmers or merchants to fight and die in their conflicts. This specialization is what we must recognize and strive for in our society. Let the farmer farm and the soldier fight. Let the statesman handle matters of state and the fisherman tend to his nets. Democracy encourages men to try many different occupations and pastimes, which, as we have already discussed, is unjust. So a democracy's very function is one of injustice. Furthermore, a democracy does not require those in office to have any kind of knowledge or know-how regarding the position they hold. Democracy doesn't mind what the habits and background of its politicians are, provided they profess themselves the people's friends. My final point is one that is a cause for alarm. Democracy is the precursor to tyranny, and gasp you should. I think that we can all agree that liberty is the primary intention and greatest advantage of democratic society. It is my duty as a leader to warn the Assembly that a pursuit of democracy is a pursuit of tyranny. An excessive desire for liberty is what undermines democracy and leads to the demand for tyranny. A democracy reserves its approval for rulers who behave like subjects, and subjects who behave like rulers. In a society with these values, the desire for liberty will be drawn further and further to the extremes. Eventually, the minds of those in the democracy will become so sensitive that the mere suggestion of restraint is resented as intolerable, until finally, in their determination to have no master, they disregard all laws, written or unwritten. Such an extreme action will undoubtedly result in an extreme backlash. The majority of the people in a democracy are those who earn their own living, take little interest in politics, and aren't very well off. These masses will inevitably rise up against those who they envy or see as having wronged them. When enough people are drawn to a cause, a leader is sure to be chosen, and this is the very beginning of the tyranny. I know that you require this point to be explained, so here it is. The mob will do anything their leader tells them, and the temptation is too strong. This leader will inevitably abuse his power to further the goals of his supporters and eventually his own personal goals, for we must not forget that he was born of democracy, and the purpose of a democracy is to allow men to fulfill their own desires. And so the tyrant is born, and we are again where we started, living under the tyrant's thumb. But I suppose one is better than 30. This is the choice that is before you, a democracy now and a tyranny later, or the rule of competent and educated men. Choose wisely. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak on the reconciliation agreement or citizenship?
So, for the clarification of justice, since justice is the main subject that lies within these topics that we're discussing, our brave Socratic argumentors, if you will, would say that they are familiar with the jobs that a farmer or a politician would have.
They want us to be like Spartans.
Is it not just that a farmer would be good at farming? Is it just that a statesman would be good at running a state? Is it not unjust that a statesman would make a decision on behalf of a farmer who would indeed suffer first in times of war, economic loss, physical abuse? I ask that you would be aware that in light of justice, a farmer can make just as good decisions on his behalf in society as a statesman can on behalf of a farmer. Justice goes both ways. Injustice is done when you make others not be able to choose on behalf of themselves and for others. Making all part of the assembly rather than few. Unlike my fellow hardcore Democrats, they would say that slaves and medics would be allowed to be citizens and parts of the assembly. I would disagree. But, however, I believe that the assembly should be expounded beyond those that would be considered just and fit to rule and make decisions for the betterment of the state.
Anybody else have anything else to say in conjunction to anyone else's speeches, arguments, persuasions? What's up?
I would just like to reiterate the point that the job of the statesman is to know the jobs of his people that are in his state, and that a statesman making a decision that affects a farmer is not the same as a farmer making a decision that affects a soldier, because a farmer can only know the intricacies of farming, and a statesman's job, since all he does is educate himself in the matters of his state, knows more about everything than the farmer does. The farmer may know how to plow his field more easily, or what the perfect time to plant his crops are, but he knows nothing of war strategies or of economic policies. And to have them included in those types of decisions makes no sense.
I feel like that statement's completely relative to one farmer versus another. A statesman is not a farmer because they can't fully understand what it's like to be a farmer and how decisions that a statesman would make would completely affect a farmer without not